Had been on the ship for 3 months and she still got lost at least twice a week. The hallways all looked the same to her. Silver walls, soft blue lights, and doors that opened with a quiet hiss. Every corridor curved in ways that made no sense to her human brain. They had built their ships in spirals like the inside of a seashell. Beautiful, yes. Easy to navigate, no. Tonight was worse than usual. The power had gone out 10 minutes ago, and the emergency lights gave everything an orange glow that made the familiar look strange. Held her translation tablet close to her chest and walked slowly. Her soft shoes made no sound on the smooth floor. She was supposed to be in her quarters. The ship's captain had announced that all non-essential crew should stay in their rooms during the power issue, but had been in the library studying poetry for tomorrow's diplomatic meeting. When the lights went out, she had tried to find her way back. That was her first mistake. Her second mistake was not paying attention to which level she was on. The ship had 47 levels, lived on level 12 along with the other human visitors. Levels 1 through 10 were forbidden to humans. Everyone knew this. The signs were everywhere, written in both script and standard galactic. Royal levels, no entry without permission, death penalty for trespassers. Had always thought the death penalty part was a joke. The she worked with were kind and polite. They laughed at her mistakes when she tried to speak their language. They shared their strange purple fruits with her at meals. Surely, they would not kill someone for walking into the wrong hallway. She found out later that she was wrong about that. The door in front of her looked like every other door. In the orange emergency light, she could not see the small golden marking that would have told her this was a royal entrance. She pressed her hand against the panel, expecting nothing to happen. Most doors on the ship required a special code or a handprint. This door opened. Warm, wet air hit her face. It smelled like flowers and something else, something sharp and clean like medicine. Steam floated in the darkness ahead, heard the soft sound of water moving. She should have turned around. She should have closed the door and run away as fast as she could. But the steam was so warm and she was so cold. The power outage had turned off the heating systems, and her thin human clothing did nothing against the chill. Just a moment, she told herself. Just a moment to get warm, and then she would leave. She stepped inside. The room was huge. Could not see the walls through the steam, but she could tell from the echo of her footsteps that she was in a very large space. The floor under her feet changed from smooth metal to something that felt like stone. Warm stone, pleasant against her cold toes. Blue lights glowed beneath the water ahead. Not emergency lights, but something softer, something beautiful. The lights moved slowly, like living things swimming in the depths, walked closer, pulled forward by curiosity. The pool was the size of a small lake. Steam rose from its surface in lazy spirals. The water was not clear but milky white, and those blue lights danced beneath it like stars in a cloudy sky. Around the edges of the pool she could see golden decorations, flowers made of metal, symbols she did not recognize. This was not a simple bathing room. This was something special, something sacred. Knew she should leave. Every part of her brain screamed at her to turn around and go, but her feet would not move. The beauty of this place had frozen her in wonder. Then she saw her. At first thought it was a statue. A figure stood in the center of the pool, half hidden by steam, tall and thin, with skin that seemed to glow with its own soft light. They were beautiful by human standards with their large dark eyes and graceful limbs. But this figure was something more. Something that made her heart stop in her chest. The figure turned and saw her face. It was the Empress. Had seen the Empress only once before during a formal ceremony. She had stood far away in the back of a crowd of diplomats and translators. The Empress had worn heavy robes of gold and silver, and her face had been hidden behind a mask of jewels. But even from that distance, had felt the power of her presence. The Empress was old, they said. Older than the ship, older than the alliance between the people and the rest of the galaxy. Now standing in the sacred pool with no robes and no mask, the Empress looked different. She looked sick. Training kicked in without her permission. Before she became a translator, she had studied medicine for 2 years. She had wanted to be a doctor, like her mother. She knew the signs of illness when she saw them. The Empress's skin, which should have glowed with health, was dull in patches. Along her arms and neck could see dark lines like cracks in old paint. The Empress moved slowly, carefully, as if every motion caused her pain. And her face, her beautiful ancient face, was thin and tired. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was what saw beneath the skin. They had a gift. They called it the Veil of Glory. It was a natural ability to make themselves appear stronger, healthier, and more beautiful than they really were. A kind of living illusion that all had from birth. The more powerful the stronger their veil. The Empress's veil was failing. Could see it flickering like a candle in the wind. One moment the Empress looked like the magnificent ruler remembered from the ceremony. The next moment she looked like what she truly was, old, sick, dying. The Empress was dying. Made a sound, she did not mean to. It was small, barely a whisper of breath, but in the silence of the sacred pool it was loud enough. The Empress's head turned. Her eyes, large and dark and filled with ancient knowledge, found standing at the edge of the pool. For a long moment neither of them moved, neither of them breathed. Then the Empress screamed. It was not a human scream. It was something higher, something sharper, something that cut through the air like a knife. Fell to her knees, her hands over her ears. The sound filled her head, pushed against her skull, made her eyes water with pain. Guards appeared from nowhere, tall in golden armor with weapons that glowed with deadly light. They grabbed arms and pulled her to her feet. She could not fight them. She could barely think. The Empress's scream still echoed in her mind. More rushed into the room. They wrapped the Empress in robes of white silk, hiding her failing body from sight. Others formed a wall between and the pool, blocking her view. But it was too late. She had already seen. She had already witnessed the one secret that no one was supposed to know. The Empress of the Empire was dying. The guards dragged out of the sacred pool room and into the hallway. The power was still out, and the orange emergency lights made their golden armor look like fire. Feet scraped against the floor as they pulled her along. She was too shocked to walk properly. They took her to a small room with no windows. The walls were bare metal, and the only furniture was a single chair in the center. They pushed her into the chair and locked her wrists to the armrests. Then they left without saying a word. Sat in the darkness and tried to understand what had happened. She had broken law. She had entered the royal levels without permission. She had seen the Empress without her veil of glory. She had witnessed the royal weakness, the one thing that the people never, ever showed to outsiders. The death penalty, it was not a joke after all. Hours passed, or maybe it was minutes, could not tell in the darkness. She thought about her family back on Earth, her mother who had wanted her to become a doctor, her brother who had followed his dreams and become her father who had died when she was young and never got to see her grow up. She thought about all the things she had not done yet, all the places she had not seen, all the words she had not said. She thought about the Empress, standing sick and alone in that sacred pool, her body failing while the whole empire believed she was strong. The door opened. Light flooded into the room, making squint. A figure stood in the doorway, tall and thin, wearing robes of deep blue. Not a guard, someone else. The figure stepped inside and the door closed behind them. In the dim light could see their face. Young by standards, male with sharp features and eyes that held both anger and something else, something that looked almost like fear. "You are the human," he said. His voice was cold. The translator nodded. Her mouth was too dry to speak. "I am Prince," he said, "son of the Empress. You have seen my mother's shame. You have seen her weakness. Do you understand what this means?" found her voice. "I did not mean to, I got lost. The power was out and I—" "It does not matter what you meant." The prince's voice cut through her words like a blade. "What matters is what you saw. What matters is what you know." He stepped closer. In the dim light, could see that his hands were shaking. "By our law, you should die," he said. "The guards want to kill you now before you can tell anyone what you witnessed. But there is another law, an older law. A witness to royal shame cannot be killed until the Blood Council has gathered. They must decide if your death serves the Empire." Felt a tiny spark of hope. "How long do I have?" 3 days, said the prince. "The Blood Council will gather in 3 days. Until then you will stay here, alone. No one will speak to you, no one will help you." He turned toward the door, then stopped. For a moment he stood still, his back to her. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer, almost broken. "My mother is dying," he said. "Our healers cannot help her. They do not even know what is wrong. And I cannot tell anyone because to admit weakness is to invite challenge. If the other noble houses knew that the Empress was sick, they would tear the Empire apart in their fight for the throne." He looked back over his shoulder. "I do not want to kill you, human, but I do not know how to save you, not yet." Then he left, and the door locked behind him, and was alone in the darkness with the knowledge of a dying Empress and the countdown to her own death. 3 days. She had 3 days to find a way to survive. The first day passed slowly. Sat in her chair, her wrists still locked to the armrests, and stared at the wall in front of her. The room had no clock, no window, no way to know if it was day or night. Only the occasional sound of footsteps outside the door told her that time was still moving. She tried to stay calm. She tried to think clearly. But fear kept crawling into her mind like a cold fog. In 2 more days she would stand before the Blood Council. In 2 more days they would decide if she should live or die. And she knew, deep in her heart, what their decision would be. They valued strength above all things. Their entire society was built on the idea that the strong should lead and the weak should serve. The veil of glory was not just a pretty trick. It was how they showed their power to each other. With a strong veil could hide any flaw, any weakness, any sign of age or illness. With a weak veil was considered unfit to lead. The Empress had the strongest veil in the Empire, or at least she was supposed to. That was why she had ruled for so long. That was why no one had challenged her throne. Everyone believed that she was too powerful to defeat. But had seen the truth. She had seen the veil flicker and fail. She had seen the cracks in the Empress's skin, the dark lines that spoke of something wrong inside her body. She had seen a dying woman trying to hide behind an illusion that no longer worked. If anyone else found out, the Empire would fall into chaos. Every noble house would claim the throne. Wars would break out across 100 worlds. Millions would die in the fighting. Understood now why the guards wanted to kill her quickly. She was dangerous. Her knowledge was dangerous. As long as she lived, she was a threat to everything they had built. But she did not want to die. The door opened on the second day. Had fallen asleep in her chair, her head hanging forward, her neck aching. She woke up fast when she heard the hiss of the door. It was not the prince this time. It was a woman in simple gray clothes, a servant, maybe, or a healer. She carried a tray with food and water. She did not look at its face as she set the tray on the floor. "Please," said, her voice came out rough and dry. "Please, can you unlock my hands just for a moment? I cannot eat like this." The servant did not answer. She turned and walked toward the door. "Wait," called, "please, I know I made a mistake. I know I broke your laws, but I did not mean any harm. I was just lost. I was cold and scared, and I walked through the wrong door. Please, there must be some way to fix this." The servant stopped at the door. For a moment she stood still, her back to. Then she spoke, so quietly that could barely hear. "There is no fixing this," she said. "You saw what no outsider should ever see. You saw our Empress weak. You saw our great ruler failing. Even if you promised to keep the secret, even if you swore on your life, they would never trust you. They could never take that risk. She turned her head slightly and caught a glimpse of her face, young, for a pretty, in a sad kind of way. Her eyes held no anger, only pity. "I am sorry, human," she said. "I truly am, but you are already dead. The council will only make it official." Then she left, and the door locked behind her. Stared at the tray of food on the floor. She could not reach it with her hands locked to the chair. She thought about trying to tip the chair over, about crawling on the floor to reach the water. But what was the point? The servant was right. She was already dead. No, she could not think like that. She was human. Humans did not give up. Humans found a way, even when there was no way. That was what made them special. That was what made them different from every other species in the galaxy. Closed her eyes and thought about what she knew. The Empress was sick, dying even. The healers could not help her. Prince had said so himself. They did not even know what was wrong. But had studied medicine. Only for 2 years before she switched to languages, but she had learned a lot in those 2 years. She had learned about human diseases and alien diseases. She had learned about cells and organs and all the ways a body could fail. What she had seen in the sacred pool, those dark lines on the Empress's skin, they reminded her of something. Something she had read about in her studies. Something that happened when cells stopped working properly, when they forgot how to repair themselves. Cellular decay. That was the human term for it, a breakdown of the body at the smallest level. In humans, it happened naturally with age. The cells grew tired and stopped doing their jobs. Eventually, the whole body failed. But the Empress was not human. She was, and from what understood, did not age the same way humans did. They could live for thousands of years without showing any signs of growing old. Their cells were different, stronger, better at repairing themselves. So why was the Empress's body breaking down? Thought about this for a long time. She remembered her classes, her textbooks, the long nights of studying before exams. She remembered her teachers, strict but kind, pushing her to understand not just the facts but the reasons behind them. There had been a case study, a report about a disease that affected long-lived species. It was rare, almost unheard of, but it did exist. The cells would start to fail, one by one, spreading like a slow fire through the body. The cause was usually genetic, a flaw in the code that told cells how to repair themselves. Once it started, it was almost impossible to stop. Almost. There was a treatment, not a cure exactly, but a way to slow the damage, a way to give the body time to heal itself. It required a special mixture of chemicals, things that were common on Earth but rare in other parts of the galaxy, things that humans used every day without thinking about them. If was right, if the Empress had this disease, then human medicine might be able to help. Not medicine, with its focus on strength and power. Human medicine, with its focus on understanding and care. She had something to offer. She had something that might be worth more than her life. The door opened again. This time it was Prince. He looked tired, even more tired than before. His robes were wrinkled and his hair was not properly arranged. For this was a serious sign of stress. "The council gathers tomorrow," he said. "I came to tell you that I tried to speak on your behalf. I tried to convince them to show mercy. But they would not listen. They are afraid of what you know. They want to silence you before you can share your secret." Took a deep breath. "I can save her." The prince blinked. "What?" "Your mother, the Empress. I think I know what is wrong with her, and I think I know how to treat it." Stared at her. His face showed nothing, but his eyes flickered with something that might have been hope, or maybe it was fear. It was hard to tell. "You are lying," he said. "You are trying to save yourself with false promises." "I am not lying." Leaned forward as much as her restraints would allow. "Listen to me. I saw your mother in the pool. I saw the cracks in her skin, the dark lines along her arms. Those are signs of cellular decay. It is a disease that breaks down the body at the smallest level. It is rare, but it exists. And there is a treatment. Our healers have tried everything, the prince said. Every medicine, every ritual, every ancient technique. Nothing works. Because medicine is not designed for this kind of problem. Spoke quickly, afraid he would leave before she could finish. Your healers focus on strength. They try to make the body fight harder, push through the weakness. But this disease cannot be fought. It has to be managed. The body needs time to heal, and it needs the right chemicals to support that healing. What chemicals? Things that are common on Earth. Rare here but not impossible to find. I can make a list. I can explain how to mix them, how to use them, but I need help. I need to contact my brother. He knows more about alien diseases than I do. Together, we can figure out the exact treatment. The prince was quiet for a long moment, could see the struggle on his face. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to save his mother. But he was also raised to distrust outsiders, taught to value strength over cooperation. If you are wrong, he said slowly, or if you are lying, I will kill you myself. Slowly and painfully. Do you understand? Nodded, I understand. And if you try to share my mother's secret with anyone, if you try to use this knowledge against us, I will make sure your entire species suffers for it. I would never do that. Met his eyes without flinching. I am not your enemy, Prince. I am just a translator who got lost and ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. I do not want to hurt your mother or your empire. I just want to live. And if I can help save the Empress while saving myself, then everyone wins. The prince studied her face for a long time. We're good at reading emotions, even in aliens. Did not try to hide what she was feeling. She let him see her fear, her hope, her desperate need to survive. Finally, he reached down and unlocked her wrists from the chair. Rubbed her arms, feeling the blood flow back into her hands. Thank you. Do not thank me yet, the prince said. You have promised much. Now you must deliver. I will bring you a communication device. You will contact your brother and tell him what you need. But I will be listening to every word. If you try anything suspicious, if you say anything that sounds like a call for help or a warning about our secret, I will end the call and your life in the same moment. I understand. Good. He moved toward the door, then stopped. There is one more thing, the Blood Council. They will still want to meet tomorrow. They will still want to pass judgment on you. But if I can help the Empress, that is what I will tell them, that you have offered a service to the throne, that your death should be delayed until we know if your offer is real or false. He looked back at her with those dark, unreadable eyes. It will buy you time, human. A few days, maybe a week. But it will not save you forever. If your treatment fails, if my mother dies anyway, then you will follow her into death. And it will not be quick. Nodded, she understood the deal she was making. Success meant life. Failure meant death. There was no middle ground. I will not fail, she said. I promise. The prince made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a sigh. Humans and their promises. I will never understand your species. Then he left to get the communication device, and was alone with her thoughts and her fears, and the tiny, fragile hope that she might live to see another day. She had one chance to prove herself, one chance to save the Empress and earn her own freedom. She could not afford to fail. The communication device was small, no bigger than's palm. It looked like a flat piece of glass with lights that flickered inside it. Prince showed her how to use it, how to speak into one end and hear from the other. Then he sat down in the corner of the room and waited. His hands were shaking as she entered the code for her brother's station, worked at a research center on the edge of Earth's solar system. He spent his days studying alien life forms, trying to understand how different species survived in different environments. If anyone could help her figure out the Empress's treatment, it was him. The device made a soft sound, and then her brother's face appeared in the glass. He looked older than she remembered, with tired lines around his eyes. But when he saw her, his whole face lit up with a smile. I was not expecting to hear from you. How is the diplomatic mission going?" Glanced at the prince in the corner. He was watching her with sharp, careful eyes. She had to be very careful about what she said. "It is going well," she said, "but I need your help with something, a medical question." Smile faded a little. He knew her well enough to hear the tension in her voice. "What kind of medical question?" "Cellular decay, the kind that affects long-lived species. Do you remember learning about it in school?" "Of course, it is rare but serious. Why do you ask?" Took a deep breath. "I have seen a case, here on the ship. One of these is showing symptoms. Dark lines under the skin, patches of dullness, slow movement. I think it might be progressive cellular degradation." His face became serious. "That is not good. PCG is difficult to treat. The cells lose their ability to repair themselves. Eventually, the whole system shuts down." "Is there anything that can be done?" "There are treatments. Nothing that can cure it completely, but things that can slow the progression, buy time for the body to stabilize." He paused, thinking. "The main problem is that most treatments require compounds that are not found in alien medicine, things that are common on Earth but rare in other parts of the galaxy." "What kind of compounds?" Started listing names. Complex chemical terms that did not fully understand. She repeated them slowly, making sure she got each one right. The prince was watching, his eyes moving between her and the device. She could feel his suspicion, but also his desperate hope. "These compounds," said, "how would they be used? What is the treatment process?" "It is complicated." Rubbed his forehead, the way he always did when he was thinking hard. "The compounds need to be mixed in a specific way at specific temperatures. Then they need to be introduced into the body slowly over several hours. Too fast and they could cause more damage. Too slow and they will not work at all." "Can you send me the instructions? A guide that shows exactly how to do it?" "I can, but—" Her brother looked worried. "This kind of treatment is not something you can do alone. It requires medical training. It requires equipment. Are you sure you know what you're getting into?" Looked at the prince again. His face was still, but she could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands gripped the arms of his chair. "I have help," she said. "I am not alone, but I need you to trust me, please. This is important." Her brother was quiet for a long moment. They had always been close, even when they were children. He knew when she was hiding something. He knew when she was in trouble, but he also knew that she would not ask for help unless she truly needed it. "I will send you everything," he said finally. "The compound list, the mixing instructions, the treatment steps, all of it. But please be careful. PCG treatment is delicate work. One mistake could kill the patient." "I know, thank you so much." She ended the call, and the device went dark. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the ship around them. The prince stood up slowly. "Your brother, he knows what he is talking about. He is one of the best on Earth. He has studied diseases like this for years. If he says the treatment will work, then it will work." "If," the prince's voice was sharp, "that is a small word with a very big meaning." "I know," looked at him directly, "but it is the best chance your mother has. Your healers have tried everything. Nothing has worked. This is different. This is human medicine, designed to help the body heal instead of forcing it to fight. It might be exactly what the Empress needs." The prince walked across the room to stand in front of her. Up close, she could see how young he really was. By standards, he was barely an adult. He had probably never faced a crisis like this before. He was probably terrified. "If this fails," he said quietly, "I will lose everything. My mother, my throne, my empire. The noble houses will tear us apart. They will use her weakness as an excuse to destroy my family." "I know." "Do you? Do you really understand what you are asking me to risk?" Thought about it. She thought about everything that could go wrong. The treatment might not work. The Empress might die anyway. The Blood Council might decide to kill regardless of the outcome. There were 100 ways this could end badly. But there was one way it could end well. "I understand," she said, "and I am asking you to trust me anyway. Not because I am special or because humans are better than, but because sometimes when everything seems hopeless, you have to take a chance. You have to believe that things can get better, even when all the evidence says they cannot." The prince stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly, something changed in his face. The hardness softened just a little. The suspicion gave way to something that looked almost like respect. "You are strange, human," he said. "Your species is young. You have only been in space for a few generations. Yet you talk like someone who has seen 1,000 years of struggle." "We have," said, "not in space but on our own world. Humans have faced extinction many times. War, disease, disaster. Every time we found a way to survive. Not because we were the strongest but because we never stopped trying. We never gave up hope." The prince nodded slowly. "Hope. It is a word we do not use often we speak of strength, of power, of destiny, but hope is something different. Hope is what keeps you fighting when you have no reason to fight. It is what makes you try again after you have failed 100 times. It is, searched for the right words. It is believing that tomorrow can be better than today." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of everything hung in the air between them. Life and death, trust and suspicion. Two species, so different in so many ways, brought together by chance and desperation. Then the prince reached out his hand, looked at it in surprise, did not shake hands like humans did. It was not part of their culture. For him to offer his hand meant something special, something significant. She took his hand in hers. His skin was warm, almost hot by human standards. His grip was strong but gentle. "I will trust you, human," he said, "for my mother's sake and for my people's sake. But if you betray that trust, if you use this opportunity to harm us in any way—" "I will not, Sid, I promise." The prince held her hand for a moment longer, then let go. "My name is, you may use it when we are alone. It is, not proper by standards, but nothing about this situation is proper." Smiled, the first real smile she had managed since entering that sacred pool. "Thank you, I am, but you already knew that." "I did." The ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Now we have work to do. My brother is sending the instructions." "Yes, they should arrive soon." "Good, I will gather the compounds he listed. Some of them will be difficult to find, but not impossible. The royal stores have many rare things." "What about the Blood Council? They still want to meet tomorrow." His face hardened again. "I will speak to them. I will tell them that you have offered a service to the throne and that your judgment must be delayed. They will not be happy, but they will obey. No one wants to anger the heir to the throne, especially now. And if the treatment works, if your mother recovers—" The prince looked at her with those dark, ancient eyes. "Then you will have earned something that no human has ever earned before. You will have the gratitude of the Empire, and that of Earth is worth more than gold." He turned and walked toward the door. Then he stopped and looked back. "One more thing. I am going to move you to better quarters. A real room with a bed and a window. You cannot help my mother if you are too tired and weak to think clearly." "Thank you." "Do not thank me yet," he said. "Save your thanks for when this is over, if we are both still alive to hear them." Then he left, and was alone with the weight of everything she had promised, and the hope that somehow, against all odds, she could make it come true. The instructions from arrived an hour later. They were detailed and complex, pages and pages of information about compounds and temperatures and timing. Read through them 3 times, making sure she understood every step. This was going to be the most important thing she had ever done, the most dangerous thing she had ever done. One mistake could kill the Empress. One mistake could start a war. But if she succeeded, if she actually pulled this off, she would change everything. She would prove that humans were not just weak, short-lived creatures who were barely worth noticing. She would prove that human knowledge, human compassion, human determination could make a difference, even in an empire that valued strength above all things. She would prove that hope was more powerful than fear. And maybe, just maybe, she would get to live long enough to tell the story. The new room was small but comfortable. It had a real bed, soft and warm, with blankets that smelled like the strange purple flowers had seen throughout the ship. There was a window that looked out into space, showing the endless black dotted with distant stars. And there was a desk, where spread out her notes and prepared for the most important work of her life. Came to her 3 hours later, carrying a box filled with small containers. Each container held one of the compounds that had listed. Some were liquids that glowed faintly in the dim light. Others were powders of different colors, from pure white to deep red to a strange shade of purple that seemed to change when you looked at it from different angles. "I found everything," said. "It was not easy. Some of these compounds have not been used in centuries. The keepers of the royal stores did not want to give them up." "How did you convince them?" "I told them the Empress requested it. They did not dare to refuse." He set the box on the desk next to his notes. "Will these be enough?" Looked through the containers, checking each one against her brother's list. Everything was there. Everything she needed to make the treatment. "Yes," she said, "this is perfect, thank you." "What happens now?" Took a deep breath. "Now I mix the compounds according to the instructions. The process takes several hours and it must be done exactly right. The temperature, the timing, the order of mixing. If anything is wrong, the whole thing could fail. Or worse. Or worse. Did not try to hide the truth. If the mixture is wrong, it could harm your mother instead of helping her. That is why I need to be very careful." Nodded slowly. "I will stay and watch. I want to understand what you are doing." "You do not trust me." "It is not about trust." The prince sat down in a chair near the window. "It is about knowledge. If this treatment works, I want to understand why. I want to know what humans know that we do not. And if something goes wrong," he paused, "I want to know what happened. I want to be able to explain it to the council." Understood. He was protecting himself, protecting his family. If she failed, he needed to be able to say that he had watched the whole process, that the human had made a mistake, that it was not his fault for trusting her. It was smart. It was the kind of thinking that kept rulers alive in dangerous times. She did not blame him. "Then watch," she said, "and learn." She began to work. The first step was the easiest. She measured the base compounds, the ones that would make up most of the mixture. They went into a large container that had brought from the medical ward, stirred them slowly, counting in her head, making sure each movement was smooth and even. The second step was harder. Some of the compounds had to be heated to exact temperatures before they could be added. Used a small device that measured heat, watching the numbers carefully. Too hot and the compounds would break down. Too cold and they would not mix properly. Watched in silence. Occasionally he asked questions. What was this compound for? Why did that one need to be heated? How did humans discover these treatments? Answered as best she could, explaining the science behind each step. She found herself enjoying the conversation. Was smart, much smarter than she had expected. He understood things quickly and asked good questions. Under different circumstances, they might have been friends. Maybe, if everything worked out, they still could be. The hours passed slowly. The mixture changed color as she added more compounds. First it was clear, like water. Then it turned pale yellow, then golden, then a deep amber that reminded of honey. Each color change meant that the process was working. Each color change brought her one step closer to success. By the time she reached the final step, she was exhausted. Her eyes hurt from staring at measurements. Her hands were sore from stirring. But she could not stop now, not when she was so close. The last compound was the most important. It was also the most dangerous. According to notes, It was something that humans used to help patients who were dying from age-related diseases. It helped the cells remember how to repair themselves. It gave them the instructions they had forgotten. But if she added too much, it would overwhelm the system. The cells would try to repair too fast, making mistakes, creating more damage instead of fixing it. The patient would die within hours. Held the container of the final compound in her hands. It was a small amount, no more than a few drops, but those drops could save a life or end one. "Are you ready?" asked. His voice was tense. "No," admitted, "but I am going to do it anyway." She added the drops one by one, counting carefully. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The mixture changed one last time from amber to a soft, glowing green. It looked alive, like something that held the power of healing inside it. "It is done," said. She set down the container and stepped back. "The treatment is ready." Stood up and walked to the desk. He looked at the glowing mixture with wonder in his eyes. "This will save her. If I did everything right, yes. It will slow the decay. It will give her body time to heal." Hesitated. "But there is something else we need to talk about." "What?" "The treatment has to be given carefully, slowly, over several hours. And it has to be given by someone who understands how it works. If something goes wrong, if there is a bad reaction, the person giving the treatment needs to know how to respond." Understood immediately. "You need to be there in the same room as my mother during the treatment." "Yes." The prince was quiet for a long moment. His face showed nothing, but could see the battle happening behind his eyes. He had taken a huge risk already, trusting her with this treatment. Now she was asking him to take an even bigger risk. She was asking him to let a human, an outsider, into the most private moment of the Empress's life. "The guards will not allow it," he said finally. "They will never let you near my mother after what you saw." "Then you will have to convince them." How can I convince them to let the very person who saw my mother's shame be the one to give her medicine? They will think I have gone mad. They will think you have done something to my mind." Thought about this. He was right. The guards would never agree. They were trained to protect the Empress from all threats, and right now was the biggest threat of all. "Unless—" "Tell them the truth," she said. Stared at her. "What?" "Tell the guards the truth. Tell them that I saw the Empress in the pool. Tell them that I recognized her illness. Tell them that I have created a treatment that might save her life. But also tell them that I am the only one who can give it, that if they kill me, their Empress will die. That is a huge risk, if they think you are trying to manipulate them. They might kill me anyway, I know," met his eyes. "But what other choice do we have? The treatment is ready. Your mother is dying. Every hour we waste is an hour she does not have. We can play games and make plans, or we can take a chance and hope for the best." Shook his head slowly. "You humans, you are always so willing to risk everything." "We have to be. We do not live as long as you do. We do not have time to be careful. We have to make our choices quickly and live with the results." Smiled a little. "It is not always a good thing. Sometimes we make terrible mistakes, but sometimes we do amazing things that no one thought were possible." The prince looked at her for a long time. Then slowly he nodded. "I will speak to the guards," he said. "I will tell them what you told me, and I will pray to whatever gods are listening that they believe me." He took the container with the treatment and held it carefully in his hands. The green glow lit his face, making him look younger than he was. "If this works," he said quietly, "I will owe you a debt that I can never repay." "You do not owe me anything," said. "I am doing this to survive, that is all." "No," shook his head. "You are doing this because you care, because you saw a sick woman in a pool and instead of being afraid or disgusted, you wanted to help. That is not survival, that is something else, something human." He turned and walked toward the door. At the entrance he stopped and looked back. "Rest now," he said. "When I have convinced the guards, I will send someone to bring you to the medical chamber. You will need all your strength for what comes next." Called, he paused. "Thank you for believing in me." The prince did not answer, but just before the door closed, she saw something on his face that might have been a smile. Lay down on the bed and closed her eyes. She was tired, so tired, but her mind would not stop racing. In a few hours, she would be in the same room as the Empress. She would give the dying ruler a treatment that might save her or might kill her. She would hold the fate of an empire in her hands. No pressure, she thought, no pressure at all. She fell asleep with the green glow of hope still burning in her memory, and dreamed of a future where humans stood side by side as friends instead of strangers. The medical chamber was deep in the heart of the royal levels. Walked there surrounded by guards, their golden armor gleaming in the soft light. None of them looked at her. None of them spoke. She could feel their hatred like a cold wind against her skin. Walked beside her carrying the container with the treatment. He had convinced the guards somehow. Did not know what he had said, what promises he had made, what threats he had used. But here she was, walking through the forbidden levels, about to meet the Empress face to face. The door to the medical chamber was tall and carved with symbols that did not recognize. Ancient writing, maybe. Religious symbols. Things that had meaning to the but were just shapes to her human eyes. The door opened, and they stepped inside. The Empress lay on a bed in the center of the room. She looked smaller than remembered, fragile and thin against the white sheets. Her skin was pale, and those dark lines were more visible now, spreading across her arms and neck like cracks in old stone. Her eyes were open, and they were watching. "So," the Empress said. Her voice was weak but still held the echo of power. "This is the human who saw my shame." Bowed low the way she had been taught during her training. "Yes, Your Majesty, I am here to help if you will let me." "Help," the Empress laughed, but it was a sad sound, not a happy one. "My son tells me you have made a medicine, something from your human knowledge. He says it might save my life." "It might," said carefully. "I cannot promise anything, but the treatment is designed to slow the decay of your cells. It will give your body time to heal itself. And if it fails, then I will die. Your son has made that very clear." The Empress studied her for a long moment. Those ancient eyes held thousands of years of wisdom, thousands of years of watching species rise and fall. Felt small under that gaze, like a child standing before a mountain. "You are brave for a human," the Empress said finally. "Or perhaps you are foolish. It is sometimes hard to tell the difference." "Perhaps both, Your Majesty." The ghost of a smile crossed the Empress's face. "Perhaps." She turned her head toward her son. "You trust this human." "I do, Mother." The prince's voice was steady. "I have watched her work. I have seen the care she takes, the knowledge she has. I believe she wants to help. And if you are wrong, then I will accept the consequences, whatever they may be." The Empress was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "Very well, begin the treatment." The next few hours were the longest of life. She worked slowly, carefully, following every step of her brother's instructions exactly. The treatment had to be given through a special device that released the mixture into the bloodstream bit by bit. Too fast, and it would overwhelm the Empress's system. Too slow, and it would not work at all. Stayed by his mother's side, holding her hand. The guards watched from the corners of the room, their weapons ready. If anything went wrong, if the Empress showed any sign of distress, knew they would kill her before she could take another breath. But nothing went wrong. The treatment flowed into the Empress's body, drop by drop, minute by minute, hour by hour. Watched the old ruler's face, looking for any sign of change. At first there was nothing. The Empress lay still, her eyes closed, her breathing shallow. Then slowly, something began to happen. The dark lines on the Empress's skin started to fade, not disappearing completely, but becoming lighter, less visible. The color came back to her face, turning from pale gray to something warmer. Her breathing grew stronger, deeper, more like the breath of someone who was sleeping peacefully rather than dying slowly. The guards noticed. They leaned forward, their eyes wide. This was not what they had expected. They had expected failure. They had expected to watch their empress die and then kill the human who had made false promises. Instead, they were watching a miracle. The empress opened her eyes. They were clearer now, brighter, with more life in them than had seen before. She looked down at her arms, at the fatting lines, at the skin that was beginning to glow again with the natural light of her species. "How do you feel, Mother?" asked. His voice was shaking. The Empress sat up slowly. By standards, this was amazing. An hour ago, she could barely lift her head. Now she was sitting up, looking around the room, moving with strength that should have been impossible. "I feel," she paused, searching for the right word. "I feel young. I have not felt this way in centuries." Tears ran down his face. He did not try to hide them. He leaned forward and wrapped his arms around his mother, holding her close, his body shaking with relief and joy. Stepped back and watched them. Mother and son, reunited in hope after weeks of fear and despair. It was a beautiful moment. A human moment, she thought. Even though they were aliens, even though their species was so different from hers, the love between parent and child was the same everywhere in the galaxy. The Empress looked up from her son's embrace and found with her eyes. "Come here, human." Walked forward slowly. She stopped at the edge of the bed and waited. The Empress reached out and took his hand. Her grip was strong now, warm with life instead of cold with approaching death. "You saved my life," the Empress said. "You, a small creature from a young world, you saw my weakness, the one thing I tried to hide from all the universe. And instead of using it against me, instead of running away in fear, you chose to help." "I had reasons," said, "selfish reasons. I wanted to survive." "Yes, my son told me about the bargain you made, your life for my cure," the Empress smiled. "But I do not think that is the whole truth. You could have let me die. You could have waited until after the Blood Council made their decision. Perhaps they would have shown mercy. Perhaps they would have let you live as a prisoner instead of killing you. But you did not wait. You acted. You took a risk, not just to save yourself, but to save someone you had never met, someone who was supposed to be your enemy." Did not know what to say. The Empress was right. There had been other options, safer options, but had not chosen them. She had chosen to help, even when helping meant risking everything. "That is why I am going to give you something," the Empress continued. "Something that no human has ever received before." She released his hand and turned to her son. "Bring me the crown of witness." Looked surprised, but he did not argue. He walked to a cabinet on the wall and opened it. Inside was a small golden circlet, simple but beautiful, with a single blue gem set in the center. He brought it to his mother, and she held it up for to see. "This crown has only been given 3 times in the entire history of our empire," the Empress said. "It is called the Crown of Witness, and it marks someone who has seen a royal secret and kept it safe. Someone who has proven themselves worthy of trust, even when trust seemed impossible." She reached up and placed the crown on his head. It was lighter than expected, almost weightless. "From this day forward," the Empress announced, her voice strong and clear, "you are a keeper of royal truth. You will have the protection of the throne. No one may harm you without answering to me personally. And more than that, you will be the first human ambassador to the court." His head was spinning. "Ambassador, but I am just a translator." "You were a translator," the Empress said. "Now you are something more. You are living proof that humans can work together, that your young species has knowledge and wisdom that even we, with all our centuries of learning, do not possess." She smiled and for the first time saw warmth in that ancient face. "You saved my life of Earth. Now I am giving you a chance to save millions more, to build a bridge between our peoples, to create something new and wonderful in this galaxy." Looked at, he was smiling too, his eyes still wet with tears but now filled with hope instead of fear. "It will not be easy," he said. "There are many in our empire who do not trust humans, many who will see you as a threat, no matter what title you hold. But you will not be alone. I will stand beside you, as a friend and as an ally." "Thank you," whispered. It was all she could say. The guards in the corners of the room looked at each other in confusion. An hour ago, they had been ready to kill this human. Now their empress was making her an ambassador, giving her one of the highest honors in their culture. The world had turned upside down, and they did not know what to do. But she knew exactly what to do. She knelt before the empress, bowing her head low. "I accept the honor you have given me. I will do my best to serve both our peoples. I will work to build understanding between humans and I will never, ever forget the trust you have placed in me." The empress nodded in approval. "Rise, ambassador, there is much work to be done. And I think, for the first time in many years, I am actually looking forward to the future." Stood up, the crown of witness gleaming on her head. Through the window of the medical chamber, she could see the stars stretching out into infinity. Countless worlds, countless species, countless possibilities. She had come to this ship as a translator, a small human doing a small job in a big galaxy. She had walked through a wrong door and seen something she should not have seen. She had faced death, offered hope, and somehow come out the other side as something new. She was still human. Still small, still fragile, still limited by her short life and her weak body, but she had proven something important, not just but to herself. Humans were not special because they were strong or powerful or long-lived. They were special because they cared, because they saw suffering and wanted to help, because they believed in hope, even when hope seemed foolish. That was what made them worth knowing. That was what made them worth saving. And that, realized, was why the galaxy would never be the same.